So I'm in London's Heathrow Airport today, about to head on a flight to go and speak at an event in San Francisco, California. Here's just a little bit of insight into the life of a speaker. Obviously I'm in an airport lounge just now waiting for my flight to be called, but in the next kind of 30 minutes I actually have a call with a client who I'm speaking for an event in 2 weeks time. We're doing what's called a pre-event call where we're discussing their event and some of the content related to their event. This morning I also dealt with 2 inquiries on my way here to the airport. Inquiries that come in last minute, asking me to go and speak at various different events as well. So you have to have a little bit of a system on the road because you're traveling so much as a speaker. You have to have a couple of things. So I have, this is my probably number one thing, is my phone. It goes everywhere with me. Passport, your wallet, your money, and little things like this, like cameras and stands and different things to just make it really easy. And obviously my laptop, make it easy to create content on the road, to respond to people, to be able to have communications with folks on the road as well, and continue to add value to the people that are interested in the area that you speak about. Last night I was at an event called Work in Progress Show by the comedian Ricky Gervais. So Ricky had kindly put myself and my wife Alison on the guest list for what's called a Work in Progress Show. So he has a big tour that's going to be happening in about a year's time. And what he's doing is he's actually starting to work up the show, working up all the different segments of the show. These are called work in progress shows. The thing about a work in progress show is you might do 3 or 4 of them or more, and you're testing out different lines and different ideas that you eventually want to put in your main show. Now here's how this works for speakers and what we can learn from it as speakers. Something that was very interesting in the way that Ricky crafts and builds up his set is he's obviously thinking in individual sketches, in 5 to 10 minute sketches. So what you'll often see him do is, he actually even had it written on the back of his hand. He had the kind of names of each of the individual sketches. There's probably about 10 of them over the course of the 60 minutes or something that he gave his show for. And he's trying different ideas. And some of them work, and he was very open. He came out at the start saying, hey, this is a very small audience, probably 200 people, which normally he's doing big stadiums, big arenas. And he said, listen, some of these things that I'm going to say tonight, some of them are going to fly, some of them are just going to absolutely crash and burn. And that's absolutely fine. So depending on the feedback I get from you tonight, it will depend on what I end up using in my final show. So this is a useful thing for us to think about as speakers, about how, as we're building up a keynote, especially as we're working on a keynote, think in a modular way. Think in 5-minute segments, 5-minute chunks of time. And then what you can do is, the other interesting thing about when you think about it that way, if ever you're asked to give a speech which is slightly different from your main speech, you can just take these modulars and parts of your speech and move them around. But the really key thing I learned last night, and this is something I always do, if I'm working on a new speech, I will book in a couple of shows which are just those work in progress shows. I might book in 4 or 5. It might even be with a Rotary Club, for example, like essentially almost free gigs that I'm doing, in order to just test out this material. These are my work in progress shows. So if you have a big speech coming up, try and get a couple of work in progress shows in your schedule so you can work up the pieces in your actual speech, and think in those 5-minute modular blocks. That sounds like my flight is going to be boarding soon, so I'll leave it with that just now. All the best for your speaking life. This episode of The Speaker's Life is sponsored by eSpeakers, the innovative platform that connects speakers with event organizers and associations. eSpeakers provides cutting-edge tools that will elevate your online presence, streamline your speaking business, and maximize your exposure in the speaking industry. With over 15 years in the business, 10,000 speakers in their community, and over 20,000 events managed annually, eSpeakers is the preferred choice for top speakers. You can create your own profile on eSpeakers today by going to speakersu.com/eSpeakers.